If you've been hanging around soil stories, you already know I'm always experimenting with weird, wild, and wonderfully natural ways to boost our soil. But this time, I stumbled on something that even surprised me. It all started with a pile of sad, slumped, collapsing Halloween pumpkins sitting behind my shed. They were too mushy for carving, too far gone for cooking, and honestly, I was a little embarrassed to throw them out. So I did what any soil-obsessed gardener would do. I buried them. And a few weeks later, when I returned to check on the spot, I peeled back the soil and found thousands, and I mean thousands, of wiggling compost worms throwing the world's biggest underground party. It was like a natural worm hatchery had erupted under my feet. Today I'm sharing exactly how that happened, why it works, and how you can use this post-Halloween trick to supercharge your garden soil. No special tools, no fancy composters, no fuss. Welcome to a Soil Stories Deep Dive. We tend to think of pumpkins as decorations or food, but in the garden, a decomposing pumpkin becomes something far more powerful. As it breaks down, it transforms into a nutrient-rich, worm-attracting, microbe-boosting powerhouse. Pumpkins contain natural sugars, soft fibers, seeds, moisture, and minerals, all of which create an environment that soil organisms absolutely love. When a pumpkin starts rotting, the breakdown process becomes irresistible to earthworms. They swarm to the scene for two reasons: food and habitat. The decaying flesh becomes easy to consume, and the soft, damp environment inside the pumpkin shell creates the perfect living and breeding space. Worms love darkness, moisture, and steady organic matter. A rotting pumpkin gives them all that in one biodegradable container. That's why when I dug up my pumpkin burial spot, the soil wasn't just rich, it was alive. You don't need a compost pile, a worm bin, or even a big garden. All you need is leftover pumpkins and a little patch of soil. This method works in raised beds, in ground beds, or even large containers. Here's how I did it on my Soil Stories plot. I dug a shallow pit, dropped in the collapsing pumpkins, whole, uncut, and, gooey. Added a thin layer of leaves, and covered everything with soil. That's it. No stirring, no layering, no turning. I actually forgot about them until I went back weeks later to plant greens nearby. Burying pumpkins creates a natural compost capsule that decomposes underground, feeding the soil slowly while attracting every beneficial creature in the area. And the best part? It's completely hands-free once buried. If you've ever seen a compost pile teeming with worms, you know decomposition is basically an all-you-can-eat buffet for them. Pumpkins take that buffet to another level. When buried, pumpkins become soft, moist pockets that warm up slightly as microbes get to work. That warmth alone can draw worms from several feet away. The pumpkin flesh breaks down into a soft, slurry worms can easily slurp and process. They multiply quickly in such high food conditions, laying cocoons in the surrounding soil. That's why I found not only adult worms but also masses of baby worms, tiny threads of pink and red wriggling everywhere. My rotten pumpkins had accidentally turned into a worm farm. For gardeners, that's pure gold. For the soil, it's transformation. First, the pumpkin begins to collapse even more as microbes move in. Bacteria, fungi, and tiny soil organisms start breaking the pumpkin down, releasing nutrients like potassium, phosphorus, and trace minerals. This rich soup leaches directly into the surrounding soil. Plants growing around the burial site suddenly have more access to these nutrients, often showing deeper green foliage and faster growth. As worms feed on the pumpkin, they leave behind castings, some of the most potent natural fertilizer on the planet. A single worm can produce its body weight in castings every day. Now imagine thousands of them clustered in one spot. The result is hyper-enriched soil that stays fertile for months. This micro-ecosystem also improves soil structure. Worm tunneling increases aeration, helps with drainage, and improves water retention. The soil becomes soft and crumbly, the kind of texture gardeners dream about. That's why the area where I buried my pumpkins now grows some of the strongest, healthiest plants on my entire plot. Pick your burial spot. Choose a location where you want long-term soil improvement. I prefer the edges of raised beds or areas I rotate crops through. Dig a shallow grave. You don't need to go deep, 6 to 8 inches is perfect. Place your pumpkins whole or smash them for quicker decomposition. If the pumpkins are moldy, caved in, or leaking, they're perfect. Add some browns if available. Dry leaves or shredded cardboard help balance moisture but aren't required. Cover with soil. That's it. Just bury them and walk away. Mark the spot if you have pets or forgetful feet. Come back weeks later to find worms in full celebration mode. Placement matters. If you want to make the most of your pumpkin burial, think like a worm and like a plant. Bury pumpkins in areas where soil needs a boost. Heavy clay areas, sandy patches, spots where plants struggled the year before, those are perfect. Plant nutrient-hungry crops near the burial zone. Tomatoes, squash, kale, beans, and peppers will all benefit from the worm activity and nutrient release. Avoid burying pumpkins too close to young seedlings. As pumpkins decompose, they can heat up the soil slightly. It's harmless to mature plants, but not ideal for tiny sprouts. Do pumpkins attract pests? Well, they can if you leave them on the surface, but buried pumpkins rarely attract unwanted animals. The soil acts as a natural barrier, and honestly, a scent blocker too. Will pumpkin seeds sprout? Sometimes, but those volunteer pumpkin seedlings are super easy to pluck, or even transplant. Honestly, I just treat them as bonus plants. Will this trick work in cold climates? Yes, absolutely. Decomposition does slow down in winter, but it always picks up again in spring. Worms will still find the pumpkins when the soil warms up. What I love most about this method is just how timeless it is. Pumpkins are available every single year. Even if you don't celebrate Halloween, markets usually toss old pumpkins after the season. You can save them from the landfill and honestly, turn them into powerful soil medicine. This trick doesn't require any expertise, no compost bin, and really, no high maintenance care at all. It restores soil naturally, harnessing worms and microbes to do the work for you. Whether you garden on a balcony, in your backyard, on a rooftop, or at an allotment, rotten pumpkins can become a reliable, renewable soil feeding strategy. The worms will come, the soil will change, and your plants will show the results. If you've never buried rotten pumpkins before, honestly, this is your year. Don't throw them away. Don't let them just rot in a corner. Give them to the soil, and the soil will reward you 100 times over. When you try it, come back and tell me what you found. Did you get thousands of worms, too? Did your soil turn darker and softer? Did your plants explode with new growth? Your story might inspire another gardener to give it a try. And if you enjoyed this guide, don't forget to subscribe to Soil Stories and share this article with a fellow gardener. Let's spread the magic of simple natural soil hacks, one pumpkin burial at a time.